Hello, everybody. God bless. Peace of Christ. This for what is it now? So this was actually scheduled for about 2 hours from now, not now. I've decided to come in because I've actually had this scheduled now for about 4 or 5 days. And I did that for a specific reason to try and get more people to come along to the event. I thought if I scheduled it beforehand, that would help in people coming in. Of course, starting it a bit earlier might not help it, we'll see. But of course, I can always stop it. I think I can anyway, always stop it and restart it later on at the correct time, we'll see. I mean, if I get enough people come in, then I'll just continue it. We'll see how it goes. But at the moment, I'm currently trying to get me other account on TikTok up and running. There's another new account on that now, but I have to go through the 30-minute live part and live over 3 separate days, so I can invite guests onto it. I've done the 30-minute part. I did that sort of 5 or 6 hours ago. I've got to do the live over 3 separate days part now, so I can start inviting guests up onto that. And then that will be a new channel that I'll be using going forward for TikTok. But again, I'd like to get this also going because the subject I've got at the moment on this particular channel, the child grooming gangs or the child rape gangs, as they're now correctly called, it's not really something that you can discuss on TikTok without easily getting, banned. Whereas on this particular platform, it is something that can be discussed a lot easier. And so I thought, best place to do this type of subject would be here. And there's still a lot of talk about it at the moment, which is good. There's still a lot of misinformation about it, which is bad, such as the government continuing to say that the J report was an inquiry into child grooming gangs. That's a lie. That is a big lie. No, the J report was not an inquiry into child grooming gangs. The J report was an inquiry into child abuse overall, over every single bit of child abuse in the UK. So if a child was being abused in a church, the J report looked at that. If a child was being abused in a home or whatever, the J report looked at that. It did also cover, of course, child grooming gangs because that covered child abuse. But it looked, as I say, at whole of child abuse as a whole. That's why it took 7 years, because they expanded it to such a wide area. They needed to look at so many different things and so many different parts that it took so long. And so for them to continue to say the J report was into is wrong of them. It's wrong of them. It included that, but it also included every single aspect of child abuse in the UK by everybody, the whole of the UK. And that's why that is very deceptive of the present government to continue to say that. Because, as I say, the J report didn't specify just on child grooming gangs, which is what people want. They want an inquiry just on child grooming gangs. And the reason why the government doesn't want it and the rest of the politicians don't want it is because they've known about this problem for years and they've all covered it, the whole lot of them. And that's why they don't want an inquiry, because obviously they don't want people to know the fact that they've known this problem for the past 30 years and none of them have done anything about it. It started under Tony Blair. When Tony Blair was Prime Minister, that's when this problem started. And then it changed. Obviously, Tony Blair left and Gordon Brown took over. The problem was still there. You know, successive councils, predominantly in the north, where this problem was starting to happen, were Labour. Of course, after Blair and Gordon Brown, Labour lost the government. The Conservatives took over, and Conservatives were voted back in. And it was during that time, as I say again, that it grew and grew and grew and grew without the government doing anything about it either. But again, predominantly it was Labour-led councils where it was still happening. And then, of course, Labour got back into power, where we now have the fiasco that we have now, where not only are the Labour Party lying to everybody about this, also the Conservatives are, also Reform, the whole lot of them are all lying to you all about this problem. And this is why they don't want to, this is why Labour don't want an inquiry. But I'm sure even the ones who were saying on pretending to call for the inquiry, they also don't want the inquiry. They're saying they do, just to look as though there is a bit of opposition to it and try to make some of them look good. But in reality, not one single politician wants an inquiry. And as I say, they're all implicit. This is why. And they knew that the vote wouldn't succeed. They knew that the majority of them would vote against it, especially the Labour as well, which is what happened. So that's why they could quite comfortably call for an inquiry that they knew would never happen. I mean, you've also got to look at the aspect of the current London mayor. The current London mayor is in charge of the Metropolitan Police and also the current commissioner of police, Mark Rowley, answers directly to the London mayor. He just happens to be a gentleman who's from Pakistan. The Minister of Justice for the UK just happens to be someone from Pakistan. Now, when you have a country, that two high influential people, both within the police and the Justice Department, are from the exact same country where these perpetrators are mainly perpetrating this crime, it doesn't take an inquiry. It doesn't really take an inquiry to work out, something is wrong. The police are not prosecuting the perpetrators. The judiciary, when they do come before them, are giving out such weak, wishy sentences, it's not even worth the police's time to arrest them anyway. You then need to look at what's happening at the top in those roles. And as I say, the judiciary, the top is a man from Pakistan. The police, the top is a man from Pakistan. As I say, it doesn't take a genius to work out, that there's a lot of cover up going on here. And the government, again, as I say, are implicit in that. Not just the previous Labour governments and the present Labour government, but also the previous Conservative government as well. They're all implicit in thousands and thousands of children being mass groomed and their lives being ruined. As I say, I'm really surprised that people. I had a guest. I don't know if he's still here. Jerome Phil. Let me see if you're still here, Jerome Phil. If you are, I don't think you are you? Let's see if you are. Add to stage. I'm adding you to the stage now, Jerome.
Yeah, what's up, man?
You're still here. God bless.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching you on TikTok. I've come in the lives a few times. You probably recognize the voice.
Right.
Yeah, I've come and spoke to you. Usually, like before the live gets popping, I come up and say hello.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm still doing that, but I mean, obviously, the
Mhm.
last account that I used a lot was now close to the edge of getting a permanent ban, unfortunately,
Okay.
because the Muslims don't like me very much for some
Mhm.
reason. Um, and so I've just started now using another different account, and I'm trying to get that up and running. I haven't got to the stage yet on it where I can invite guests onto that. But also, this particular topic that I hope to discuss tonight on this live isn't really a topic that you can discuss on TikTok. Um,
Mhm.
it's the
Mhm.
sort of topic that would get you an easy ban on TikTok
Mhm.
discussing this
Mhm.
particular topic because it covers areas, as I say, which yeah, it sort of infringes most of TikTok's rights, really, community standards, basically. Whereas on this particular platform, you were more open to discuss these topics without it infringing the YouTube community guidelines.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
yeah, that's why I've
Yeah.
chosen this to do this. But unfortunately, not many people know about this YouTube channel. Although
Yeah.
I've had it for over 5 years,
Okay.
and although I've tried to grow it for over 5 years, um, I'm not the sort of person that uses the monetary parts of YouTube to do that, such as super chats and adverts and subscriptions. So that's also held me back from growing it. But I mean, I don't know why, because this channel now has been linked to that old TikTok account nearly every time I've gone live. So I can't understand why more people don't know about this channel anyway. But there you go. Whenever I
I found out about it when I searched your name up on the YouTube. I saw it on TikTok. I searched the name on YouTube, and I saw, oh, he's got a YouTube channel. So that's how I got to know about it. But people not really
okay,
taking,
all right.
not yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know how it worked. That's what I say. All I do know is when I was going live on the other TikTok channel, I'd linked the other TikTok channel to
Mm.
this channel. So how they actually make it aware when you do, I don't know. Um, that's what I say. I wasn't sure how it
Different
was
platform,
working.
different way of promoting, I suppose. Yeah, because
Yeah,
usually the guys from like God Logic, Sam Shaman, they start with a TikTok, and as you were saying to the last guy who you were speaking to on this platform, they usually get people to come over to their YouTube, and then they can start doing the debates with through their link.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's difficult to do that because you can't. Again, mentioning another different platform on TikTok is an instant ban.
Hmm. Hmm. But
So if you
I remember when you first started with the TikTok, or when I first started watching you last year, and they used to say a lot of banned words, and you didn't used to get instant. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, you see, it's very difficult again because on TikTok, I don't use um, all the ways that there is of making money, which then
Mhm.
makes TikTok money. You see,
Okay. Okay.
whatever way, all the different platforms have different ways of you making money. And as
True.
you make the money, they make even more because they take a cut of what you make. And it's usually around 70 to 30%. They take 70%, you keep 30%.
Okay.
And so when you use all the, like on TikTok, for instance, it's again subscription. You can put in some people to subscribe for a set amount of money. And then also there's the gifts where they gift you during
Mm-hmm.
your lives. And
Mm-hmm.
again, depending on how much money each live makes, that depends on how far TikTok will push you. If you
Mm-hmm.
make a lot of money, TikTok will push you a lot because not only are you making a lot of money, you're making them a lot of money.
Okay.
YouTube is exactly the same thing. They get money again from subscriptions. You can set up subscriptions on your YouTube platform and again charge people set amounts $3, $5, $10, 20, whatever it happens to be, and you can give them certain perks for that subscription where they can see videos others can't, they can join lives others can't, they get, as I say, certain perks that others don't, but also you can do super chat on YouTube, which is the other way where they make large and you make large. Because again, people can give you a super chat to any value. It can be from a few dollars up to 200, 300, $400. And if you
Okay.
do that on YouTube, again, YouTube will promote you. So within a few weeks, your views will be 3,000, 4,000 every live, and all your videos will be thousands and thousands of thousands because YouTube will keep promoting you because you're making them money and you're making yourself money. And that is how the social platforms work at the end of the day. They're in it to make as much money as they possibly can. And as I say, the more money that you make them, the more money you make you, the more they will push it. The less you make, then the less they'll push you. Of course, there are still ways to get that popularity. I mean, but you need to be someone who is popular. You need to be someone who's beautiful and intelligent and engaging. And unfortunately, I'm neither of those things. So
Okay.
it will be a struggle for me to get the chat, and it has been a struggle. But again, I don't mind. I mean, I mean, I'm a Christian at the end of the day, and I follow the Lord Jesus Christ, and I believe His hand is in everything I do. And if my channels aren't growing, then there's a reason why the Lord Jesus Christ wants that to be so. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
true. So what, like, what's your, like? Obviously, you say you've been in it for 7 years plus. You started with the Facebook, and then you obviously started on TikTok. What's your, like, how? 'Cause I never got to speak to any apologetic on their journey. 'Cause I see you on TikTok, debating the Muslims. You seem to hold your own. How was it when you first started? Like, for example, when I the first Muslim I spoke to, they had me in a corner. How was it for you when you started the?
Again, it was very difficult to start with because my knowledge was so low. Um,
Mhm.
whatever subject you are discussing and debating upon, then you need knowledge upon that particular subject. And if your knowledge is low, then you're not going to do very well within the debate. Um, you definitely need to know what you are discussing and the topic you're discussing, and what the Quran says, what the Sunnah says, what Sharia says. So it's not just a knowledge in just one particular area. You need the knowledge in all of the areas, which include Sharia, because Sharia is still a big part of Islam. Um, and likewise, your own Bible as well. You need the knowledge within your own Bible and what that says as well, or doesn't say, um, in order to sort of have a successful debate in the first place.
Mhm. That's
Um,
true.
which which is why Muslims do so badly just lately, because from what I've seen, the majority of Muslims haven't got a clue even what their own books and scriptures says.
No, they don't.
They're literally reading a script that they've been told to say by their imams and sheikhs, which the majority of it is total rubbish. And the
For
imams and
example, I've
sheikhs
been.
know that. That's
Go
why they don't say it. If the imams and sheikhs knew that what they're telling people to say wasn't total rubbish, they'd be on the social media sites saying it. But because they know it's all total rubbish, they don't. They tell other people to go ahead and look stupid rather than them. And unfortunately, the people who do it, they don't understand and they go ahead and look stupid. But there you go. But yeah, I
That's
mean,
what
I've been
the.
doing TikTok for 7 years, 8 years. When I first started, one of the first platforms I started using was TikTok. Um, and I mean, the first one I had was thousands and thousands of followers. The videos I used to do on there would get thousands and thousands of followers. And then I didn't even have that many violations on it And I went to log on one day and the channel had completely disappeared. And I had no idea what happened to it. I had no idea. I didn't even know that they'd banned me. And a permanent ban at that immediately. I had absolutely no idea. The channel just went completely. I couldn't, I then came back with a different one. That took a bit longer to grow, and over that got banned. Then another one that got banned. I mean, I've had seven, 8 different accounts on TikTok over the years, and all of them end up getting banned. And as I say, it's because I don't make TikTok money. I'm not interested in making TikTok money, and I'm not interested in me making money either. I'm not doing it for that. I'm not going to judge the people who do that, because there's nothing wrong with spreading the word and making sure that you earn a living from doing that, if that's your only means of making a living. But you have to be very, very careful when you tread that road, because it's a very, very narrow road and it's full of pitfalls and falls.
I see.
So,
So like you didn't, cause did anybody like get you in a corner? 'Cause obviously, I started to I've read the whole Bible through. I've read the Quran as well. Read the whole Quran. Read the Bible, and that was because Muslims came for me hard. So I say, and then the people, Christians around me as well were misquoting things. So I said, let me read the Bible through from Genesis to Revelation, and then get the Quran and read the Quran and see their paradigm. Did you have
mm.
anybody come hard for you, and then you picked up? What made you start the whole journey into reading your Bible, reading Quran, Sunnah, etc.
Well, I mean, reading the Bible was because I was a Christian, so that was important for me to do that because I didn't know anything about it before I became a Christian. Before that, I was an atheist. I had no interest in God, although I'd knew about it, I'd heard about it. My knowledge of it was so small that I needed to do that anyway as a Christian to learn more about it anyway. Um, but as for learning Islam, I just don't know what happened there. Basically, I just started to watch more and more videos on the subject on YouTube and other platforms as well, and other people talking about it. So David Wood, Sam Shamoon, Christian Prince, Rob Christian, and I just carried on more and more. And as I went along, I was taking notes. I mean, I've ended up with a library full of notes on Islam, and it was sort of the first 2 or 3 years of me becoming a Christian, instead of studying the Bible and instead of learning more about Christianity, which I should have really done because, as I say, at that point, I still didn't know anything about it. I was spending more time learning about Islam, the Quran, Sharia, the Sunnah, and everything to do with Islam. And I had no idea why. I knew I was never ever going to be a Muslim because I knew the more I learnt about it, the more it just looked a complete joke. But I still had no idea why I was spending much more time on learning Islam than I was Christianity. And it was a sort of after about 3, 4 years of learning Islam and finally decided, okay, I now know enough about this topic to sensibly debate anybody on it. It's now time to study my own faith and my own religion because I still didn't know anything about that at all. And so then I spent the next 3, 4 years studying Christianity and studying that more than Islam and learning that to the same sort of degree as Islam. And as it goes on, I'm still now studying Christianity. And will continue to study Christianity because, as I say, I don't need to know anything more about Islam. But I am now at a standard, as I say, where I can debate almost anybody on both subjects comfortably because my knowledge is so great on both of them. But yeah, as to why I didn't realise at the time why. I believe I do now realise why. Obviously, because where I live, and I'm sure you probably live the same country, the UK, we are getting to a point where We need more educated people on the subject of Islam, or the UK is going to be lost to Islam forever.
Seen? Have you
I
seen
don't.
Speaker's Corner? I heard you in one of the live. You've been down to Speaker's Corner.
Yeah, I did. I went down to Speaker's Corner. I didn't go to Speaker's Corner to speak, because again, when I
Okay.
went there, my knowledge was still not high enough. I was still then sort of halfway through learning about Islam. And so when I used to go to Speaker's Corner, it wasn't to go to speak because I didn't have the knowledge. And I knew to go to that sort of environment, again, you would need the knowledge. And I was correct, you would have done. Otherwise, you'll get eaten alive. But I predominantly went just to see Hatun Tash, and see firsthand with my own eyes exactly what was going on with Hatun Tash, and exactly what was happening between her and the Muslims, and just to get more, sort of information, if you like, onto the way that Islam is and the way that Islam works and the way that Muslims behave, and it was valuable. It was valuable experience for me. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about Islam in the UK just by going to Speaker's Corner when Hatun Tash was there. It's amazing to sit back and look and see 200 to 300 grown men attacking a 4 foot woman, and that's literally what they did. No word of a lie. That's literally what they did. They would get grouped together, 200 or 300 of them. There would be one or two ringleaders each time that would instigate it, but just one person, the rest of them would be sort of walking past and totally ignoring it. One of them would just call the whole lot over, and the whole lot would come around en masse, and they would surround this 4 foot woman, 300 of them. And as I say, it was invaluable to be there. It was invaluable to watch. It was invaluable to see, because although the majority of them I know wouldn't have been on their own, um, doing that type of behaviour and instigating that type of behaviour, as a group in that type of setting, one was feeding the other,
I
basically.
believe. I think that's the problem with Christians that we have is you see the Muslims, they have a group. They go down there, you know, they're all in. You notice even online when the Muslims are debating, there's always a or Muslims in the comment section ready to come up and defend that Muslim. Whereas with Christians, we don't have such a strong group. It's
No,
now if you go to Speaker's Corner now, you'll see more and more Christians going down there and supporting. But when I first went to Speaker's Corner, it didn't have much Christians. They had more Muslims, and then the Christians there, they didn't know their Bible, and they were all spread out. And so I feel as Christians, we all need to get stronger. We need to all come together, and
yes, yes. I mean, that's why I'm spent the past 2 years or so studying the early church, because again, there's a lot of lessons to be learned within the early church, within today's Christianity. And a lot of the problems you've just explained are a lot of problems that the early church suffered. The division. When it very first began, right after the crucifixion and resurrection, that division wasn't there. There was one body. That one body was all pulling in the same direction. As it went on further and further and further, that one body started to divide. You started to get the Roman Catholics, you started to get the Orthodox, you started to get the Protestant, you know, you started to get that division within that one body. And that divide has carried on throughout the years and got worse and worse and worse and worse. And in that respect, you're quite correct. In Christianity, we have so much division now that is just as dangerous as the atheist or Islam is to Christianity. But to say that it's not in Islam is a mistake. That division is still in Islam. It's just that they don't show it and you don't see it. If you want to see that division in Islam, go to Yemen. Go and live in Yemen for the next 5 or 6 years, and you'll see that division in Islam. If you wanted to see that division, go back to Iran and Iraq when Saddam Hussein was in charge of, was it Iran, I think, and Ayatollah Khomeini was in charge of Iraq, or it might be the other way around. Saddam Hussein was in charge of Iraq and Ayatollah Khomeini was in charge of Iran. Again, you'll see that division because it was the Ayatollah Khomeini who got the Americans involved and the British involved by telling them Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And the Americans and the English, like idiots, went there believing Ayatollah Khomeini's lies and sorted out Saddam Hussein for him. Because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to do it on his own because Saddam Hussein was more powerful than he was. And again, Saddam Hussein was Sunni, Ayatollah Khomeini is Shia. So that divide in Islam does still exist and it will always be there, but you won't see it until it's a full Islamic state.
Sure. So
Then you,
so when I said like there's no divide, I didn't mean as in obviously thanks for the Yemen and stuff. But what I was talking about is generally in the UK. Let's say we go to Speaker's Corner, you'll see that the Muslims down there they're working together. You'll have, as you say, 200 Muslims to one Christian. So that's in
yes,
terms of what I meant by
yes.
they work
I
together.
know, yeah. I knew
Yeah,
what you meant, and I agree with you in that respect. Yes, when it comes to that respect, the Muslims do appear as though they're all together, and there's no division within them, and the Christians are all divided. That's quite correct. They are, and the Muslims are, as I say, appearing as though they're all together. But the truth and the reality of it is a completely different thing. And as I say, you won't actually see it until Britain becomes an Islamic state. Wait until, because that's the thing with it as well. Yemen is not a country that's gifted with vast amounts of wealth within its borders. Okay? So that's why it's been a country over the years that suffered the divide, but no one's heard or known about it. That's why no one like Russia or China or America or Britain also goes and starts to get involved because there's nothing of worth there. Now look at Syria. Syria, on the other hand, is a country with vast amounts of wealth within its borders. And look what's happened with Syria over the years. There's been 5 or 6 at least different people fighting over Syria for the past 2,000 years because they all want control of it. That's the point. And it's going to be exactly the same within the UK. When the Islamists take over, do you think America's going to sit back and watch? No. Do you think China's going to sit back and watch? No. Do you think Russia's going to sit back and watch? No. Do you think the Shia and Sunni are, going to do for the first time what they've never done and live in peace and harmony in the UK? No. Just like in all Islamic states where there is vast amounts of wealth and it is a country worth controlling, there will be 5, 6 or 7 different groups all trying to gain control of that now uncontrolled UK, which will throw it into, uh, you know, a war and disputes and stuff like no one's ever seen before in Syria, in other countries of that nature, where the vast amounts of wealth are also there. And as I say, that's when you'll also see the divide between the Muslims, because the Muslims will be different sects within that as well. So you'll have the Brotherhood of Islam, you'll have the Islam Nation, you'll have the Shia, you'll have the Sunni, you'll have the Salafi, you'll have the Hanafi, you'll have the Maliki, all of them involved in that, along with the Russians, the China, the Americans. as I say, it will be a mess. It will be a complete mess. Um, and unfortunately, a lot of people who don't know the facts and the figures of the power and the wealth and the control of that also don't understand what they're going to be walking into, leading the UK down into a path of Islam, which is why it needs more and more people, as I say, like myself, like Tommy Robinson, like that other Jewish man. I've forgotten his name. Oh, what's that man's name? Goes on Piers Morgan a lot. Oh, what's his name? Oh, I've forgotten his name. Very posh, very well educated. No, his name slips me by now. But it needs more and more people with knowledge of both Islam and um, Christianity in order to start to expose what's happening. Because the powers that be don't care. The current powers that be clearly don't care. Whether Britain is a Christian country or whether it's an Islamic country or whether it's an atheist country. They're only interested in their power and their wealth and their greed. And however they can keep hold of that, then they will, keep hold of it. If that means turning Great Britain into an Islamic country, as I say, they don't care. They'll quite happily go ahead and do it. Not realizing as well, of course, that one day the snake that they are growing is going to turn round and start biting them. But there you go.
So do you think
Uh, this,
they'll implement the Sharia law here?
I think it's going to happen, yes. And this is why it was another important reason to discuss tonight's topic, the child grooming gangs, because that is one way of them implementing it quicker. There are two sides to jihad. Okay, well, there are not. There's actually five. There's actually five stages to jihad, but they begin with like places like Speaker's Corner and Stratford Station, where they go there, they hand out their literature, they talk to everyone who passes by, and they tell everyone how wonderful Islam is and how wonderful Sharia is. And that's the first stage of jihad. It's peaceful dawah, where they spread peaceful dawah about how wonderful Islam is, how beautiful it will be for everybody, and how we should have it implemented. And as I say, it then moves on through another two stages to the final two stages. And the final two stages are what we're seeing with the child grooming gangs and what you see with places like the London Underground and Manchester Arena and things like that. So there's two final stages of jihad, which is, as I say, basically mass graping everybody who's not, a Muslim, basically, because what you do then is actually destroy that whole nation through grape. That nation becomes destroyed through grape. You don't, there's no violence involved in it. Well, I mean, obviously, grape is violent anyway, but there's no violence in the way that you would assume it with the London Underground or the sword or things like of that nature. And they did exactly the same thing in Pakistan. Exactly the same thing in Pakistan with the Bangladesh community, who were mainly Hindus and were, um, without doubt, apart from the Muslim community in Pakistan, were the largest majority at one point. That what the Muslim in Pakistan, like it is now, was not the majority. The Bangladesh Hindus were. Then there was the Christian as well. So you had the three groups in Pakistan when Islam went there. You had Islam and the Muslim community, which was probably around 30 to 40%. You had the Hindu Bangladesh community, which was like 60, 70 odd percent. And then you had the Christian community, which was like 5 or 10%. And of course, they didn't need to worry about the Christian community because they were so small. They, you know, they could have just flicked them out the way anytime they wanted to. What they needed to do was concentrate on the Bangladesh Hindu community. And likewise, because of the government as well, they knew they couldn't go in all guns blazing and just, you know, do the genocide that way. So they actually implemented rape by genocide, which is what we're seeing now in the UK, where they went and they handpicked specifically Hindu Bangladesh girls and boys and mass raped them, which
Okay.
basically totally ruins that Bangladesh Hindu community, because all those Bangladesh Hindus, especially the girls who are being mass raped, are totally destroyed. They have children through that rape. Those children end up becoming more Muslims, not Hindus. And if they hadn't have been treated that way, if they hadn't have been destroyed that way, those children would have grown up, had proper, you know, children in proper Hindu relationships who would have grown up to be Hindu children. And so in that way, they destroyed the Bangladesh Hindu community in Pakistan. And of course, they, at the same time, continue to have more and more children, raising them as Muslims, so that eventually the 40 to 50, 30 to 40% of the Muslim community ends up becoming the 60 and 70% rather quickly, and the 60 and 70% Hindu community ends up becoming 30 and 40% rather quickly. That then makes them in a position where they can now implement what is the current state of affairs in Pakistan, 90% Muslim. And it's no different from what you're seeing happening in the UK now. The more and more British white children they mass rape and mass destroy ends up getting rid of the British population in the UK. And what becomes the majority? Not any of the other populations in the UK, like the Jehovah Witnesses or the Roman Catholics or the Sikhs or the Buddhists or the Hindus. The Muslims become the majority. And once they reach that stage, then the sword comes out to deal with all the others and to subdue all the others and get rid of all the others. And again, this is why it's very important for people like myself. Douglas Murray, that was it. That was the name I was trying to think of earlier, Douglas Murray. This is why it's very important for people like myself, Douglas Murray, as I say, Tommy Robinson, Hatun Tash, people of that ilk, to sort of start to stand up and say, look, you know, these problems need addressing. They need addressing now. We need to stop this rot. Otherwise, everyone might as well just stay their Shahada now and become a Muslim. Because that's what's happening in the UK. And it's not just the UK either. Let's put it into perspective. France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Africa. It's happening in all those countries simultaneously. Spain, Italy, every single one of those countries simultaneously it's happening in. And of course, once they've gained control of France, Spain, Germany, UK, Dutch, Belgium, and the rest of Europe, then they'll concentrate on America. And exactly the same thing will happen in America then. Yeah, and that's what's happening. And as I say, it needs people of, you know, because the UK has huge problems at the moment in respect of it's allowed people within its power structure to be from Pakistan. Um, one of the last ministers of Scotland, Yusuf, whatever his name is, was from Pakistan. The current London mayor, Sadiq Khan, is from Pakistan. The current Minister of Justice, the guy right at the top of the justice system, all the judges answer to, all the courts answer to, is from Pakistan. Is it any wonder that Pakistani grape grooming gangs can run riot in the UK, getting away and doing with what they want to do, when the head of the Metropolitan Police and the police commissioner is from Pakistan, and the head of all the courts and legal system is also from Pakistan? No, of course it's not any wonder. And this is why the majority of the politicians also don't want an inquiry into this scandal, because again, that's another lie. When they keep saying, "Oh, we've had the J report, we've had the J report," the J report was not an inquiry into child grape grooming gangs. The J report was an inquiry into child abuse in every single area of the UK. And it didn't just include grape, it included anyone who was an adult who even slapped their child. That was child abuse, and that's what the J report looked into. Child abuse in the church, child abuse in social services, child abuse, in fact, the one area they didn't look into child abuse at was at schools. They decided very early on at the beginning of the report, because it was such a large area that they were looking into, and because there were so many things they had to study into, they decided there were certain areas that they needed to miss out and leave and not study at all. And they were told at the beginning that the one area you need to look into with this is at schools, because the majority of the child grooming gangs were operating outside schools. They were literally picking the children up outside schools. And the J report, right at the very beginning, said, no, we're going to leave schools out of our report because there's too much for us to look into anyway. And so they didn't even include schools in their report, in the J report. And as I say, this is the biggest scandal of all of it at the moment as well. The biggest scandal, of course, is that it's happened. The biggest scandal is that it's been covered up for so many years. And now the biggest scandal is the politicians hoodwinking everybody into thinking that the J report was an inquiry into this problem. No, it was not. It had nothing to do with child grooming gangs. Although it looks briefly at that, it also looked at so many other different aspects and so many different areas that the majority of the 7-year report was nothing to do with child grooming gangs. Absolutely nothing. And many people knew that, there's a particular man who was a politician in Oldham. His name is Raja. He's a Muslim. He's a Muslim man. He was saying as well, he was standing up at the time when the J report was being commissioned 7 years ago. And he was the one who was saying, no, you don't need to concentrate on what's happening to children outside the child grooming gangs. All you need to do is concentrate on what's happening with the child grooming gangs and start by looking at schools. He was told to go away and keep quiet. He didn't know what he was talking about. The police ended up raiding in his house 2 or 3 times. They went round to his house and busted his door down 2 or 3 times. They doxed him. The police put his details out on social media and made it fully aware to everyone exactly where he lived. And the poor man was persecuted for the next 4 or 5 years by Muslims. It's incredible, really. It is. The whole situation is just incredible. It's been the massive cover up for the past few years, and it's also as I say, what's going to destroy the UK a lot quicker than any other method of jihad. Of course, they could have done it as well, by the sword and by force and that way, but I still think that would have still taken a lot longer, than this current method of, genocide by rape. Um, and likewise, as I say, I think as well, the other way, the sword and the force way, would have met more, resistance from the government and the police and the powers that be. This particular method, the police and the government don't give a shit, because they don't. They don't give a shit about the likes of you and me. They don't give a shit about our children. All they care about is their money, their wealth, and their power, and the control. And if that means sacrificing thousands and thousands of children, they'll happily do it. And likewise, as I say, the Muslims who were trying to take over and be the ones in power and control also don't understand that the government and the present powers that be, if they needed to, would turn against them as well. Unfortunately, the powers that be and the present government also don't understand that those same Muslims who they would turn against in a heartbeat without even batting an eyelid will also do the same to them one day when they're in a position to do so. So, I mean, at the moment, we have two evils within the UK currently: the evil of power and control and money, and the evil of Islam. And both of them at the moment are side by side fighting together against everyone else. As I say, the interesting part is going to come when they've finished fighting everyone else and it's just those left, Islam and the powers and the wealth that be. That's going to be an interest. That, well, as I say, it won't be that. That's when, as I say, that's when, yeah, that's when it will all kick off big time. At that point. But
Interesting. Interesting.
it is, yes, it is interesting, as I say. It is because it involves as well 1,500 years now of history. This is not something new. What's happening in Europe and the UK is not anything new. This happened, in the Middle East, and has been happening in the Middle East for the past 1,400 years. You've had Islam side by side with people who have had power and wealth and money, and they've been, as I say, mainly fighting each other to first of all get control, and then once they've got control, still fighting each other to keep that control. And I mean, it's not even Islam is not even Islam as it was at the time of Muhammad. There's no caliph of Islam. I don't think there ever will be a caliph again of Islam, which is, of course, supposed to be an overall ruler of the whole of the Islamic State. So Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Mauritius, Afghanistan, Iran, India, Pakistan, Iraq, and the other six current Islamic states are all supposed to be under one caliph. One caliph is supposed to rule all of those 15 states, but it 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 doesn't. In Saudi Arabia, you have the royal family, of course, the crown princes running it. In Qatar, you've got who's the Shia in charge of Qatar? Uh, Not quite sure what Shia is in charge of Qatar. But as I say, Saudi is the royal crown prince family Sunni. Yemen, as I say, is a current split at the moment, roughly 60 to 40%, and they will continue to carry on fighting each other until they finally decide which one is in charge. Iran and Iraq is 50% each, 50% Sunni and 50% Shia, and that's the only reason why there's, peace there at the moment, because the divide is half and half. If ever it swung one way or the other, it would erupt again out there. Afghanistan is, of course, the Taliban, and I think Taliban. I'm not sure if they're Shia or Sunni. I'm not sure. But again, there's other things in Afghanistan which are of vast wealth to whoever owns that particular country, because it's where the world's population of heroin comes from. Um, and then that's shipped across the border into Pakistan to be turned into heroin. Which is another reason why the Muslims wanted to gain control of Pakistan so badly from the Hindus, because it's where a lot of their wealth and money comes from, as I say, from the substance heroin. But as I say, overall, there's supposed to be one caliph running the whole lot, but there never will be. That's the problem. So there's always going to be problems within that sort of scenario of Islam. And as I say, we are viewing some of those problems firsthand within the UK at the moment. And it doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to sort it out, because, as I say, the powers that be are so stupid. They think, okay, as long as they go along with the Islam and the Muslims, as long as they please them and keep them happy, they'll still stay in their power and their wealth and their control. But instead of controlling and running British people and a mixture of Hindus and Buddhists and Sikhs, they'll now be running a largely, mainly group of Muslims. What they don't understand is it will come to, as I say, a point where those Muslims will no longer want them in any sort of power or control or wealth. They'll want it all. And eventually they will take it from them. But unfortunately, the powers that be are so stupid they don't realise and understand that. Or maybe, as I say, some of them probably assume they can run away to the likes of America and places like that because they've got vast amounts of wealth. So it's not too easy, it's not too difficult for those sorts of people with vast amounts of wealth to run away to a different country and live in a different country. Who knows? But as I say, I was hoping at least to get some people in here to discuss the current child grooming scandal, because at the moment, a lot of little innocent children are suffering because of mainly because of greedy people, but also because of a certain sect whose master is Satan. And it's wrong. It's wrong. Children shouldn't be suffering. But there you go. As I say, it's not the first time it's happened. It won't be the last time. And there are many hadiths as well. There are many, many hadiths. There's thousands of hadiths where Muhammad actually told Muslims, if the children are from them, then it's okay to do what is happening currently in the UK. Grape them, destroy them, unalive them. As long as the women children are of them. In other words, as long as the women and children are not Muslim. They are Buddhist, they are Sikh, they are Hindu, they are Jamaican, they are African, they are British. It doesn't matter. You can grape them, you can destroy them, you can unalive them. And that is halal in Islam. So again, it is an Islamic problem. There's many people out there that's saying it's not. That's rubbish. It is. It is an Islamic problem. It is that they're following Islam, they're following the Sunnah, they're following the Prophet's words by doing what they're doing to these children. And again, it's something that people need to know, because
Yeah,
otherwise, all they're going to.
it is what it is.
At the moment, yes, it is. Yeah.
It was nice. It was nice speaking with you, Mister Man. So I've got to go now. But yeah, I'll keep watching your stuff.
Well, I'm going to end this one now anyway soon, because there's no one that's coming anyway, so
Oh,
there's no point in
cool,
continuing it. But yes, God bless you, sir. Peace of Christ to you.
cool. Yeah,
It
no
was nice.
problem.
Do you have any other questions before you go?
No, no other questions. No,
Okay,
I've
so
been using the Alhamdulillah Jesus.
okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good. That's all you need. That's all
yeah,
you need. He'll teach you everything you need to know, without a
sure.
doubt. Yes, yes, and he'll never lead you astray either, which is another good
That's
thing.
true. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Cool.
God bless you.
Yeah, but cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks again.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right,
All right.
brother.
Cool.
God bless you. Peace of Christ to you, sir. Anyone else who might be listening, there's only one person apparently, so I don't believe there is anyone else that's listening. No one else has invited up, only that lovely young gentleman. Um, I'm going to continue on this channel to promote this topic and to try and discuss this topic more. I have to be careful with my time, because I've only now got 6 hours left on my current free plan. I use the free plan on StreamYard. Again, I don't believe in giving money away to anyone who doesn't deserve the Lord's money. It's there for a reason. It's there for a purpose. And I need, as a guardian of Lord and a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ, to make sure I use his money wisely and correctly, and give it to the persons who he wishes me to give it to. And that's definitely not YouTube or Facebook or TikTok. So anyway, yeah, God bless everyone. Peace of Christ to everyone. All one person who's still listening. As I say, I will continue to do this over the weekend. I've also got to continue to do my new TikTok channel, to get that up and running as well, because for some reason I do seem to get more streams on TikTok than I do anywhere else. But there you go. Hopefully, hopefully one day, my YouTube will start up and running. We'll wait and see. But anyway, until then, God bless you all. Peace of Christ to you all. Um, be kind to everybody, people. Take the initiative of Jesus Christ. If Jesus Christ was here again today, he would still be loving everybody. He'd still be loving the Muslims. He'd still be loving two-tier care. He'd still be giving the love to everybody, as he did back in his day. He loved the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were our present government. He loved the atheists and the non-Jews, as he showed. Uh, and it's more important for us true Christians to stand up and show that behaviour and enact out that behaviour today than it has ever been. Otherwise, all that it needs for evil to flourish is for all the good people to sit back and do nothing. God bless you all. Peace of Christ to you all.